All right. Hi, everyone. This is our presentation on situational leadership. I'm Lauren.
I'm Caleb.
And I'm Maddie.
All right. So what is situational leadership? Situational leadership was developed by Paul and Kenneth, and it's a no one size fits all leadership style. So it is using it. It depends on different contextual settings and the demands of the tasks. Um, will require a different leadership approach. So leaders will adjust their approaches based on the task and the experience of their team members. As a leader, you must be skilled in emotional intelligence, being able to recognize what your team needs and being able to motivate them and guide them through their journey.
So essentially, there's four leadership styles within situational leadership. The first one you'd usually at the start of teaching a new task would be telling or directing. The second one would be selling or coaching. The next one would be participating or supporting, and the fourth one delegating. And just as the future, just heads up, a lot of times with the first three leadership styles, they can be just use the one of the names. So it may just be telling, or they use directing, and vice versa for selling, coaching, participating, supporting. So we had this image here. We think it was a really good image because it really describes like how you can transcend the leadership styles and on a path, essentially. It's more like a development style. So on the far right side, we kind of have just like different levels where people are at. So as you can see here, for example, the directing is usually best for beginners as they don't know what's going on. And when you're teaching this task, you're really focusing on how to teach the steps of the task and not so much of the relationship value you guys may have. And then you can follow this path through coaching, supporting, and delegating. We will get further into deep information on each one and further into the slideshow. But one thing to consider is depending on where your group members are at and their readiness and competence with the task, they could start at coaching, for example, or supporting. It all depends on the leader to determine where everyone's at. So the first one is telling and directing. Like I said earlier, this is usually best for new or inexperienced members. This is essentially your ability to guide an individual to do a task or how to perform a task. So an example could be of this leadership style is that you're a new OT student is on their first day and is unsure how to assist with a transfer. So you have your supervisor and they would guide you through it. So they could say, stand here, hold the gate belt firmly and help on my count. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Essentially, this is more of like an example would be kind of like on the job training when you first learn a job.
All right, and then the next stage of readiness would be selling and coaching. So this is where your team has some skill, but they need some motivation. So as a leader, we would offer some praise to build confidence and motivation within our team. An example of this could look like an OT student practicing transfers, but is still lacking confidence in their skills. So their supervisor would say, "You're getting the hang of it. This is the position that we practiced. Why is it important to do this?" And just like talk through it with the individual and just coaching them through it and building that confidence and motivation. The next level of readiness following that is participating and supporting. So again, this is where you have a skilled team, but they may need some more confidence or buy-in. So again, we're going to want to offer feedback and praise. An example of this is an OT student is competent in transfers, but is still seeking some reassurance. So the leader or the supervisor would say, "You've done this before. How do you want to approach it this time?" Just sort of guiding their thoughts and helping them build confidence in their own knowledge that they have. And then the last one, the final stage of readiness is delegating. So this is where you are placing the responsibility on the leaders, placing the responsibility on the team and then monitors their performance and progress. This style works best when the OT student, for example, already feels confident and capable in their abilities. And so they won't need that extra motivation or praise from their supervisor. So an example of this is just the supervisor telling the OT student, "You got this, go ahead and lead it. And if you need any help or you run into anything, I'll be here for you."
So this is how situational leadership works. We gathered a lot of this information from Knoll's adult learning theory. So the first step of doing situational leadership is the leader evaluates the readiness of the participants. So this means looking at how willing and able someone is to do the task. It's not just about skill, but it also involves confidence, experience, and the person's attitude about doing the task. Next, the leader chooses a leadership style based on that person's readiness level. It's all about finding the right balance between giving direction and offering support. Finally, the leader adapts. As the individual grows in skill or confidence, the leader adjusts their style, moving from close supervision to more independence. It's a dynamic process that changes as the person or situation evolves. So why is this important? This is important because not every team member is the same. People bring different strengths, challenges, and support needs, and these all change over time. Also, the teams themselves evolves. New members join, others leave, and that all shifts the group dynamic. And then every task is different. Some tasks require a lot of guidance, and some don't. Situational leadership gives the leaders flexibility to respond to all of that. When used effectively, it helps the team members grow, feel supported, and build the skills that they need to succeed. So, situational leadership does not come without challenges. One of the biggest ones is that it can overwhelm the leader, especially when managing a team with different readiness levels. It requires a lot of shifting and adapting, and sometimes very quickly. Another challenge is accurately assessing someone's readiness. That's where emotional intelligence comes in, being able to read people, understand their needs, and respond appropriately. There are 5 skills of emotional intelligence that are critical for the leaders to have, and these include self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. It's important for leaders to have all of these and be able to switch between leadership styles effectively and support their team in real time. And then how does all of this connect to occupational therapy? It does in a lot of ways. Situational leadership mirrors how we use therapeutic use of self, adjusting our approach based on clients' needs, personality, and context. It's about building trust and responding to where the person is at in that moment. It also ties to clinical reasoning. For example, a brand new OT might need more directive. The telling approach offers clear steps and close supervision, but as they gain confidence, we can shift to the coaching style and eventually the delegating style. And if we think about chaining, grading, or scaffolding, it's a very similar idea. We support heavily at first and then slowly back off as the person becomes more independent. Situational leadership aligns well with the gradual release of responsibility.
So still we're talking about connection OT, but some inhibitions with this situational leadership and occupational therapy. There's a lack of relationship emphasis, especially within the two steps in the middle of the styles of supporting and coaching. As no, they have supporting, my bad. The lack of relationship is mostly in the beginning and end with directing and delegating, as you kind of just let them go on their own, or you're just telling a step by step. There is some relation factors in those middle two, as I mentioned earlier, but there's some contradictions in person or P and PEO. As the reason I say this is because we're really focusing on what the person is just if they can do the task or not and where they're at in experience. We're not considering other factors like what kind of person they are, their religious beliefs, and other factors. Another one is an environment, as we don't really, the style doesn't take in what the environment looks like or it could be. That would be up to the person being the leader and working with that. And this similarly de-emphasizes client-centeredness, as we don't fully know the person. We're just really trying to assess where they're at, if they can do the task or not. So that was situational leadership. If there's any questions, just let us know. And here are our references that we use throughout this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.